All right, Politico reporter Ben Smith apologized, a friend of the show, apologized yesterday for reporting that former Senator John Edwards was suspending his campaign for president more than an hour before Edwards said he was actually staying in the race. Shira Tuplitz joining us here on Hotline TV. What are the lessons here in terms of the political coverage that we're sort of facing in this race?
Well, I think everyone has now realized first is not always right, unfortunately for Ben, who is an experienced reporter. He's worked for the New York Daily News. I mean, it's a mistake a lot of reporters would have made. I guess a lot more reporters in this town probably would have made that mistake before Ben would. That would be my guess. But
sure, I'll give him that. I'll give him that.
In any case, but
he came out though right after the announcement was made, put out wrote on his blog sort of a TikTok of his mistake. And is that sort of what's required now in this age of sort of instant media, that you can't just put a correction in the paper, you actually have to actually sort of reflect on and speculate and analyze your mistakes? Is it sort of a larger, does it become a larger issue, a larger sort of event to make a mistake like that?
I think in the 24-hour news cycle, yes, because almost every major news network on all the cable networks carried it. Mm-hmm. So I think it did become a larger event. I also think it depends on the audience. The Politico's audience is very similar to ours. There are a lot of political insiders who devour this stuff. They love reading the play-by-play, mm-hmm. and so they posted it, and it was well read. They got more than 1,000 comments on combined blog posts.
I know. I read his blog, and I read all the comments afterwards, and to some extent, a lot of the comments were negative, but to some extent, he must have been sort of flattered by the number of people who were hitting that site. I mean, it was amazing. Within like 20 minutes of him posting that I was wrong thing, he had a lot of coverage. All right, but let's move on to the much bigger story, which was Edwards announcing that his wife's cancer has returned. How does that affect the Democratic campaign, do you think?
Well, I think it certainly gave Edwards a lot of limelight yesterday. It comes across as the kind of guy that he wants to project. He is a very loving father, a loving husband, and his wife is there for him the way she is there for him. I think it was actually, despite the news, a pretty good news coverage day for Edwards.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to look at it just narrowly within the politics of it. You know, I have to be perfectly honest, and I apologize if people find this inappropriate, but I think this does extensive, and I think it's very sad because I think Elizabeth Edwards is a wonderful person.
Yeah.
I think this does some pretty serious damage, though, to his presidential campaign. You have to sort of start asking, who is going to contribute at this point to John Edwards' campaign? I mean, you have to assume that he is the loving father, he is the loving husband, and that he will be sort of focused from now on his wife and on his wife's health. I certainly would be, and I'm sure most people would, and I think it raises questions in some people's minds about sort of what long-term future there is, both in a presidential campaign and in a potential Edwards presidency. You saw his fundraising increase yesterday. Mm-hmm. I think that had a lot to do with the fact that he was getting blanket media coverage, a lot of attention on him. But I'll be very interested to see over the next weeks and months how this development affects his campaign.
Well, I'm going to actually disagree with you on that, John, because
good, I love it.
Little friction, I think we can handle it. I'm going to disagree with you because I don't think this reinforces any prior stereotypes. If this was John McCain, for example, who's dealing with this whole, I'm turning 70, all these old rumors going around, I mean, it'd be a different case. But John Edwards is a young, good-looking guy. He's got a young, good-looking wife. He doesn't reinforce anything except cancer is evil, let's fight it.
All right. Very interesting. Thank you very much, Shira Tuplitz, for joining us on Hotline TV.